Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom to the 12 tribes, Yasha Ali. Right, I like to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. That's all praises, honor, glorification unto the Most High, who is the Father, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shah. This is Brother Yasha Ali, coming back, y'all, with yet another video through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Mashak, like Yahweh Shah. All right, so, Salakia, so as you can see from the title of the video, we be going into John the 12th chapter, all right? Going into the Greeks, right? Because, brothers get stumbled upon that. There is neither Jew nor Greek. We're just going to go right here. I'm going to mainly focus on John the 12th chapter, though, right? And focus on who are these Greeks that's listed in John the 12th chapter. Because Israelites were called Greeks, all right? Let's get this. This is the book of John, chapter 12, verse 19. The Pharisees therefore said among themselves, Perceive ye how ye prevail nothing? Behold, the world is gone after him. And this also proves what? That the world referred to in John chapter 3 and verse 16 is talking about the world of Israel. Right? When you read that in the book of Isaiah, the 45th chapter, and the 17th verse, Israel is a world without end. Right? You have many worlds. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 2. Right? The Most High, He made many worlds. But basically the Pharisees said, look, hey, this man Yahweh Shah, he's converted. He's still here, right? He's still, people are following him. And so many Israelites were following Yahweh Shah when he was on the earth. He said they said that the world is gone after him, right? Denoting that what? Israel is its own world, all right? Verse 20, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. So hold on now. Are these, let's pull up a picture, right? Are these Greeks right here, right? Did these Greeks come up and worship at the feast, right? Did these men, these Edomites, right? Alexander the Great, did his kids come up and worship at the feast, right? No, it's not talking about some damn Edomites, right? It's not talking about these guys. It's talking about Israelites that were called Greeks, and we're going to get into that. Right, we're going to prove that right here. These Israelites, these Greeks are Israelites. Right, we're going to get to it through the Spirit. All right, because first of all, real quick, let's go to the book of Acts chapter 6. Right, Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. Because even in the so-called New Testament, Israelites are called Greeks. Right, even when we read this account in the book of Acts. Right, let's read it. Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. And in those days, when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. So the Hebrews, who are these Hebrews? These Hebrews are talking about Israelites that knew that they were Israelites. They were in the land of Judea. They were keeping the commandments, right? And they never left astray, like it says in the book of Luke, the 15th chapter, right? Because during this time, you had Israelites that knew that they were Israelites and they were living in the land of Israel. That's why they were called the Hebrews, right? You read about that a lot, the Jews, you know what I'm saying? But who are these Grecians? These Grecians, like I put up the picture, it's not talking about some damn Edomites, right? So-called white people. These are talking about Israelites, Greek-speaking Jews. All right, we're going to go to the, let's go to the book. Or I'm gonna pull up the Greek for it, all right? So you gotta get into the Greek as well, all right? It says the Grecians, right? So Hellenists, right? It says let me read this definition. It says used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. So it literally means a Greek speaking a Jew speaking Greek, right? Right. So a Jew that would be speaking Greek. That's what that means. All right. So this proves that this is Israelites, right? These Grecians, they're emphatically Israelites, right? So yes, Israelites are called Grecians, right? Grecians and also Greeks, right? Like you read about that in the book of John, the 12th chapter. We just read that, right? John chapter 12. And these are Greeks right here because it says what? John chapter 12, verse 20. We're going to read it again. And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. So hold on. What feast is this, right? What feast is this? Is this Christmas, right? Is this Thanksgiving? What feast is this, right? Let's go to the book of Exodus, right? So like it. Hold on. First, let me get Deuteronomy 16, right? Deuteronomy chapter 16 verse 16. They went to Jerusalem to keep this particular feast for a reason, right? We're going to get it. Deuteronomy chapter 16 verse 16. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, right? And they shall not appear before the Lord empty, right? So 3 times a year, right? Gone. So yeah, so the feast. So 3 times a year did we have to come to Jerusalem to keep the feast, to keep 3 feast days, right? One of them was the feast of unleavened bread, which is the Passover, right? Let's go to the book of Luke chapter 20 verse 1, right? Luke chapter 20 verse 1, right? Salakia. Luke chapter 20 verse 1. And it came to pass that on one of those days, as he taught the people, Salakia. Where is this? Come on, Luke chapter 22 verse 1. It says, now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. So the feast of unleavened bread and the Passover are basically one and the same, right? Because you got the first day, the feast of unleavened bread, which would be the Passover, right? So let's go back. All right. So that's the feast of unleavened bread, right? That's the Passover. And in the Feast of Weeks and in the Feast of Tabernacles, right? So 3 times, three feasts that we had to go to Jerusalem to keep them, right? Now, it says in John chapter 12 and verse 20 that certain Greeks came to keep the feast at Jerusalem. And this is talking about the Passover, because when you read the next chapter in John chapter 13, Yahweh Shah and his disciples were eating the Passover, right? So it's talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or the Passover, right? Now, let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 12. So we already established that it's talking about the Passover, right? Exodus chapter 12 and verse 3, right? Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. So what is this talking about? This is talking about what? The first Passover, right? It's talking about the first Passover. Now, let's keep going, right? So, you can read this account on your own, right? But I'm gonna just skip to the point. All right, I'm gonna skip to the point. Come on. All right, so it reads, come on. So let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 12 and verse 48. It says, and when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and it shall be as one that is born in a land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. So, right, a stranger, and this stranger is talking about an Israelite foreigner, right? It's not talking about another nation, right? Because we're going to read it, though, right? Because this type of stranger, this Israelite, he's your brother still, so he can come, let him be circumcised, and he'll keep the Passover, right? He has a right to keep the Passover because he is an Israelite, right? Now let's go to verse 43, right? Verse 43, and the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. Hold on now. Is the Lord contradicting himself, right? We know that Proverbs chapter 30, verse 5, every word of the Most High is pure, right? So how is the Most High going to contradict himself? At first, right, he says, no stranger shall eat thereof. We go down to verse 48. It says, and when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. Hold on. So this denotes that what? There is 2 types of strangers. Just like how in the New Testament, there's 2 types of Gentiles. You got Israelite Gentiles, who are Israelite foreigners, right? And you have the actual ethnic heathen Gentiles, right? The other nations, right? two types of Gentiles. Just like how you have two types of Gentiles, you have two types of strangers in the book of Exodus, right? So let's go to the book, and I'm gonna pull it up in the Hebrew, all right? We're gonna go to the Hebrew, and we're gonna see that there's more than one stranger, all right? And hey, we're gonna tie it all back up, all right? So when we go to here, it says, "There shall no stranger eat thereof." Now the word for stranger right here is nakar.
Strong's H 5236. Nechar. Nechar.
Right, nakar, right? So it means stranger, foreign, foreigner, right? Heathendom, heathen, right? Nakar, that's what it means, right? Now let's go to verse 48, right? Verse 48. Now let's go to stranger, right? Ger, you see that? Ger, of foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights, right? Exactly. So it's talking about an Israelite foreigner, right? Not always, right? Not always, because this is the certain account when Israelite is called a ger, right? A goyim, basically, a goy, which means heathen, right? So calm, right? But this type of stranger is called nakar, right? Right here in verse 43. All right. So there's two types of strangers. All right. Now, that fact, verse 43 is talking about the ethnic heathen, right? To put it plain upon tables, verse 43 is talking about the ethnic heathen, and but verse 48 is talking about the Israelite foreigners, right? Okay, so in verse 43, it's saying that no heathen, right, can eat of the Passover. So if these were ethnic heathen, let's go back to John chapter 12, right, verse 20. All right, John chapter 12, verse 20. These cannot be ethnic heathen. Here's why. Because the law says that no stranger shall eat thereof. Meaning no ethnic Gentile or ethnic heathen, cannot eat the Passover. Right? They can't keep the feast. So this denotes that what these Greeks, even though they're called Greeks, and you have this in mind, right? You have a damn Edomite in your mind when it says Greeks. It's not talking about them. It's talking about Israelites that were called Greeks, right? John chapter 12, verse 20 again. And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. Even on a deeper level, let's go to the book of Second Ezra, chapter 3. Second Ezra chapter 3 and verse 32. It says, "Or is there any other people that but knoweth thee beside Israel?" Right. No other nation knows the Most High like how we know the Most High. All right. We have a special relationship with him, right? As a whole nation, man. Because we're called and we're about to read it too. Let's keep going. "Or what generation have so believed thy covenants as Jacob?" And we have the covenants with the Most High, right? Verse 33. You can read about that in Romans chapter 9, verse 4. Verse 33. "And yet their reward appeareth not, and their labor hath no fruit. For I have gone here and there through the heathen, and I see that they flow in wealth and think not upon thy commandments." So the heathen, they don't think upon the commandments of the Lord. Verse 34. "Weigh thou therefore our wickedness down the balance, and theirs also that dwell the world. And so shall thy name nowhere be found but in Israel. Or when was it that they which dwell upon the earth have not sinned in thy sight? Or what people have so kept thy commandments? Thou shalt find that Israel by name have kept thy precepts, but not the heathen." So Israel by name has kept the Most High's commandments and precepts, but not the heathen. So it wouldn't make sense for these to be actual Greeks, actual Edomites, right, coming up and worshiping at the feast, right, and actually keeping the Passover. When that one, right, first of all, that's in violation of the law in Exodus chapter 12, right? It says, "No stranger shall eat thereof." That word stranger is nakar, and that's going into the ethnic heathen, right? No ethnic heathen can eat of the Passover, right? Two, it wouldn't make sense because Ezra just said right here that the heathen, they don't even think upon the commandments, right? They don't even want to keep them. You know what I'm saying? So it wouldn't make sense, right? So these Greeks are Israelites, right? These Greeks are Israelites. All right. So Lord willing, this was edifying. Lord willing, you're able to understand, right? So with that, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah. Like say, Shalom, Kwam, Yasha Allah.